Hey, what's up guys? So if you're watching this video, you might be thinking of purchasing your first E46. Well, in this video, as I mentioned in the title, I'm going to be talking to you guys about things to look out for when purchasing your first BMW E46. So let's get on with the video. But before we begin, I just want to say that overall, these cars are very reliable as long as you keep up with the maintenance. The main caveat is most people buy these expected to have the maintenance schedule and the maintenance type of effort to put towards the maintenance of like a older Japanese car where you don't have to do too much to have it keep going for a longer time. These cars you need to do a bit more. Alright, so the very first thing is with most cars, when you go look at it, make sure you get the maintenance, the history, if you can, from the seller. So like when it had the last oil change, coolant flush, brakes, tires, and all that type of stuff. Just the general maintenance, and that goes for most cars. Well, most if not all cars when you are purchasing them used. Knowing that they have it all documented down when the maintenance was done is a good sign from the start that this car might be a good purchase. Item number 2 to look out for is once you open up the hood, have a look around the engine bay area, like just around the engine, see if there's any leaks. As these cars do get older, one of the main issues is the valve cover gasket will start to leak, mostly near the right side of the car, mainly near the end over here. You might see some oil leaks, and that you might see some oil starting to leak, and that could be a sign of a valve cover gasket needing to be replaced. The good thing is on these cars, compared to the E90 and newer BMWs, to do the valve cover gasket on the E46 is not that hard. It only takes about half an hour to 45 minutes if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing and you're using a tutorial like the one I have on my channel, if you guys want to see that, maybe like an hour and a half, but this is a thing that you can definitely do by yourself at home. So just make sure that there's no leak, but if there is, it's not that big of an issue. It is not that hard to do, and that is item number 2 to keep a lookout for. And the third thing to keep an eye out for is also in the engine bay is the coolant system of these cars. As these cars get old, these hoses do tend to start to harden up and crack. So if the previous owner has not done that yet or doesn't know when it was last done, one of the first things that you should do is replace all of the coolant hoses, or you'll have an issue like I did. If you guys see my other video where I had to do the expansion tank, because first there was an issue with one of the hoses, it cracked, so I had to replace that. And once I did that, the original expansion tank that was on there was very old, and it had started to crack, and we had to replace that with a new one. Although it is a cheap one that I replaced it with, it's been 5 to 6 months, still holding up fine. So the coolant issue is one of the main things to keep an eye out for with the coolant hoses, that and the valve cover gasket, and that's like the main 2 issues that you might see from the engine bay. Another would be the fan system as well, but I haven't had much of an issue with that. Okay, and the 4th thing to look out for going inside the car is with most BMWs, most of the newer BMWs especially, when you are looking at them used, keep an eye out for electrical gremlins, things that could cause a parasitic drain, some stuff not working, some things malfunctioning. Electrical issues seem to be more on the newer ones from the E90 and up. So basically the 2005 and up 3 Series tend to have more electrical issues compared, like, don't get me wrong, those are good cars too, but compared to the E46, the E36, which when they have an issue, it's more of a mechanical thing. The other ones have more of a electrical issue. For example, when we purchased this, it was fine for a couple days, but then the battery started to drain and we didn't know what it was. And I didn't record this at the time because at the time I hadn't started to do YouTube yet, but it ended up having a parasitic drain. The thing that caused it was one of the common parasitic drains that there are for this car was the heater motor regulator. We had to remove it. We had to get underneath here a bit deep in there, If you're a big guy like me, you may have to lie upside down on the seat, push the seat all the way back to get to it. If you're a smaller person with a smaller frame, it could be much easier for you to get to. My way to get back there and replace that was about a $25 part on Amazon, but that fixed the electrical issue with the parasitic drain. But that's something you may not know when you first inspect the car, as it happened to us a couple of days after we purchased the car. So that is something to keep an eye out for. Ask the owner if they have had that issue or if they know of anything. So that is a risk that you may need to take. But that's item number 4 to keep an eye out for when you're purchasing your first E46. Alright, and the very last thing for this video for you guys to keep an eye out for on these cars is the suspension. As these cars get old, the suspension gets old as well. However, if you are going to replace it, either go with a reputable aftermarket set like Bilstein. Most of the time, if you go with OEM, that will give you the best ride. Things to look out for when you do change the suspension though is to get reinforcement plates for the rear and the front. For the front struts and for the rear shocks, get some reinforcement plates, because that part of the car tends to be weak on these E46s, and with age, once one wrong bump when with bad suspension, it could go straight through that part of the car. So with that being said, these are the 5 things I would say to keep an eye out for if you're purchasing a E46. Overall, these are very fantastic cars. One thing to note again for the suspension, if you have an all-wheel drive, so the XI models such as I do, you can't use the original OEM or the aftermarket suspension from a non-XI car. So the rear-wheel drive cars have their own suspension and the XI cars have their own suspension. If you purchase this thinking you'll be able to get aftermarket suspension used for the XI model, it will be hard to come by from my experience, because most people don't lower the XIs, I would say, from what I've seen. But that's all up to you. So best of luck with your purchase, and as always, buyer beware. Make sure you do your full due diligence when purchasing a used car, and if you do that, keep an eye out for these 5 things that I have mentioned in this video. You will be able to get a nice condition, a nice E46. So with that being said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. We are trying to hit 1K as fast as possible, and hopefully we'll be able to do more E46 videos in the future as well. With how the weather is going, I probably will do more E46 videos soon, because I haven't been able to ride the Marauder for the past 2 weeks. So there you guys go. Those are my 5 tips on purchasing a new E46. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya.